I'm Hannah Octavia, a 20-something who decided to start a podcast to answer a few big questions. How do people actually figure out their careers, their goals, and their lives? For years, I envied people who seemed to have it all: success, stability, prestige, and I wanted to know how they got there. So, one day, I asked. This podcast is about stories worth sharing, the wins, the setbacks, and everything in between. My hope is that by the end of each episode, you feel inspired, motivated, and reminded that everyone's story is different, and that's what makes it beautiful. Today on Seasoned Professional, I sit down with registered dietitian and nutritionist Nicole Addison, better known as Nourished by Nick. She has built an online community of over 1 million by sharing approachable, delicious, and nutrient-dense recipes. Our conversation covers so much, from Nicole's childhood and the freedom we have as kids to simply eat, to our shared struggles with our relationships with food in early adulthood, and how she built her business from the ground up. We also dive into a few nutrition myth busters like the best milk alternative and how much protein we actually need. I hope you enjoy this conversation. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, and join the Seasoned Professional community, a space for stories worth sharing. Hello everyone, welcome back to Seasoned Professional. My name is Hannah Octavia and I am here today with the lovely Nicole. And you do go by Nourished by Nick. Is it Nicole or Nick?
I do go by Nourished by Nick, but everyone actually just calls me Nicole. Some people call me Nick, but I feel like for the most part, I go by Nicole.
Alrighty, well welcome Nicole to the podcast. It is an absolute pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and chat with you.
Amazing. And just so our listeners know the dedication of Nicole, she got off a plane today at 1 a.m. It is 2 p.m. So honestly, good for you. I don't know if I'd have the same dedication. So I really appreciate you being here today.
Of course. I'm just really excited to chat with you.
Amazing. Perhaps you could give my listeners kind of like a little bit of an overview of what you do today, who you are, why they should follow you. Just give me a little rundown.
Yeah, of course. So my name's Nicole Addison and I'm a registered dietitian. I've actually been working primarily on social media for the past 5 years. It's a career I never thought I would end up in, but here I am and it's going really well. My goal is to make healthy eating as easy and accessible as possible. I feel like society's gotten a little bit out of control with all the nutrition information everywhere, and I really want to be a credible source that can help provide easy recipes, easy nutrition tips, and really just make nutrition easy again and get back to the basics. So I do that through my Instagram, TikTok, all the social media platforms, and of course my website.
Amazing. I think I came across you a few months back, and I have been making your chia pudding recipe, the coconut one, on repeat for like 4 weeks. And I've been adding cocoa to one of them, and it literally tastes like a Frosty. I don't know what I've done, but it is the best thing I've ever put in my mouth.
I need to try that. Yeah. Honestly, that is exactly the recipe. Like, I've just been away for the past 2 weeks, as you mentioned, but I have been craving that coconut chia pudding. I'm making it this weekend for sure. It's just so thick and creamy, and it has like the best like refreshing flavor. So adding cocoa powder is an amazing thing. I need to try that.
But before we get into our conversation today, I do want to acknowledge that, you know, when I was doing my research on you, on your website, you kind of speak about how a lot of who you are today has been, you know, through healing your own relationship with food. And me, you know, sitting here the past 3 hours, kind of getting ready for the podcast and freaking out on some level, part of me was a little bit anxious because I too have struggled with my relationship with food. Currently, I would say it's in a very positive place, but, you know, just looking back at university and stuff, it was definitely not a healthy relationship. And I think I very much had the mindset of, you know, scarcity and fasting and kind of that like very restrictive way of going about eating. And it never got to the point of actually being a diagnosed issue, but it was definitely something that was consistent in my life for many years. So going into this conversation, speaking with a dietitian, part of me is a little bit anxious and feeling like this conversation is going to go down, and I want it to go down this path because I think it's important to talk about, but I think it's also important, especially for my listeners, if you clicked on this and you're kind of like, ooh, am I going to be able to manage the feelings of talking about food? So I just want to put that out there for everyone, and just reassure you in a sense that I am also feeling a little bit anxious about speaking about food, but I am still very excited. So I just want to put that out there.
I honestly, I don't think you're alone at all. I think so many people go through these exact same feelings. And like you said, that's really one of the main reasons that I became a dietitian and went into posting on social media, because I wanted to be able to reach as many people as possible and just help get the message out there that nutrition and food in general don't need to be overly complicated. We don't need to be thinking about them 24/7, and they can be exciting. And talking about food can be so exciting. It's such a huge part of life. And I feel like when we are able to have these conversations and be out in the open about our anxieties and how we're feeling, it can just make everything seem a little bit more accessible and easy to digest. No pun intended for that.
No, I think that's like kind of the epitome of your brand in a sense. It's just like easy to digest, like easy to, like I don't feel myself like comparing, because it's not about this will make you look a certain way. It's about this will help you make you feel your best. It'll nourish you, you know? It's in the name. It's like, it's removing the whole like physical aspect from it, which I think is often what I associate like dietitians with, is like the physical thing. But I think it's so much more than that. And I'm sure we'll discuss it more.
Yeah, for sure. I think food, it really plays into every single thing in everyday life. And I think, it's 100% about more than just the physical aspect. My whole brand, I always started it based on like 3 pillars. Like I think food should nourish like your body and your soul and also your mind, just because for me, food became, like once I did heal my relationship with food became something I actually was excited about. And now I do like a little happy dance whenever I have food that I actually enjoy, because it's just like, it's nice having food that tastes good and makes you feel good, and it doesn't have that guilt associated with it anymore. But I'm sure we'll talk about that later.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I honestly could not agree more. So I think we will dive into our conversation, which I've kind of gone off this my last few episodes, but typically on Seasoned Professional, I ask my guests to bring a childhood photo of themselves, and Nicole has kindly done that for us today. So perhaps you could kind of give us a little overview of what's going on in this picture. You look adorable, by the way. It's very cute.
Thank you. So I was actually about, I don't know the exact age, but I was around 2, and I was with my parents in Mexico. So I've traveled, obviously, I was just away the last 2 weeks, but I've been traveling my entire life. My parents are big travelers, and they really just instilled that travel bug in me from a very young age. So I was about 2, we were in Mexico on like a family trip, and you can't really see it in the picture, but there's a plate of pasta in front of me.
Amazing.
And I always go back to this picture whenever I need like that childhood picture that I want to look at just to inspire myself, because I'm just eating a plate of buttered penne, which was honestly like the main food group I ate until I was probably about 6 years old. Like that's all I would eat. But penne with butter and Parmesan cheese.
Classic.
Yeah, exactly. Like anywhere we go, I used to be such a picky eater. It's crazy. But I think that's why I like that picture so much, because when I did get older, I kind of went away from that, and like I got scared of eating pasta and like eating too many carbs and just all those like negative associations that are out there about eating certain food groups. I really like fell into that trap. And when I look at this picture, it just makes me so happy, because you can just like see the joy on my face eating the food. And that's like what I really want everybody to be able to get back to. And that's kind of what I've made my entire brand about. I want everyone to have that enjoyment of food again, and being able to eat their favorite foods without feeling bad about them, and just being able to actually enjoy them.
That is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Like imagine We're going to get into that later. I need to like center myself. I need to focus on what's happening right now. But I really like the way that you approach that question. I think I'm going to actually take what you just said and bring it into my next podcast, because I often ask people with the whole childhood picture thing, like, tell me what's happening, but tell me how it makes you feel is such a better way to put it. Oh my God. Yeah. My mind is blown. I'm going to do that from now on.
I know there was that trend going on social media where you would like put a childhood picture of yourself on like your desk or on like your mirror. And I actually did that. I have a picture like right behind my desk, but I just feel like looking at pictures of myself at a like young age, I feel so much joy, and I'm just proud of the person that I've become. So looking at that picture, it makes me feel happy, and it's kind of all my favorite things combined. It's my love of traveling and my love of food all in one picture.
Was there ever a time in your life when you looked back at childhood pictures and didn't feel that joy?
I wouldn't say I didn't feel joy per se, but I do think it took me a while to actually be proud of myself for what I have accomplished. I think I'm a person that can be very hard on myself. I'm very much a type A personality, as a lot of dietitians are. I don't really know why, but I've just noticed that in the profession. A lot of us are very organized and we have those type A tendencies. But I can be very hard on myself, and there's definitely pros and cons to that. It definitely has helped me run my business, that I am able to hold myself to a certain standard, but at the same time, I don't always recognize my wins and recognize how far I've come and where I am now, and just being able to be proud of myself for who I am and what I've done and where I am.
That's a really lovely thing to remember. And I think so many of us, like even the whole type A thing, I think it comes back to like entrepreneurs in a sense too, is having this like very regimented way of viewing the world. And before we continue, because I have so many questions swirling in my head. This is what always happens, Nicole. Like I literally, I'm like, ooh, I could go here, but we need to stay focused, Hannah. Tell me your family structure, mom, dad, siblings. What did it look like?
Yes, I have a mom, a dad, and a younger brother. He's 4 years younger than me. And we grew up in like the suburbs outside of Toronto. We grew up just like in Mississauga and Oakville. And my parents have stayed together. And we've always had a very good family relationship. My parents have very much tried to like keep our family together and make sure that we're doing different like family trips together, or just little like Easter. My mom still does an Easter egg hunt for me and my brother every year.
That is amazing.
I'm like, she asked me the other week, she was like, do you want me to do an Easter egg hunt? I'm like, you don't need to, but like, if you want to.
I'll be as excited.
Yeah. But she always, like, they really make a point of making sure that, like, we stay together. We were just skiing in Quebec earlier in February, and it's nice. It's nice to be able to, now that me and my brother both have partners as well, it makes me feel like I have a really good support system, which I am very, very grateful for. My mom actually was one of my biggest inspirations for food in general, and like my love of food and nutrition. And it's been nice growing up in a household where I feel like the love and the support, and I know I'm very lucky for that.
Amazing. And briefly, you mentioned prior to us coming on the call that your mom is a fitness instructor. Was that something that she did like in your childhood? Is this a new kind of thing that she does?
Yeah, so her career has actually been a little all over the place. When I was younger, she was in economics and finance, so she did that. She like traveled a lot, and I guess she came home from a trip one time, and I was like 2 years old. I don't remember this at all, but I apparently turned away from her when she went to hug me. So then after that, she immediately was like, I need to change my career. So she started a birthday party business, and yeah, very quick career change, but she was home. So then she became, like, she worked from home and she owned her own business, which I do think also inspired me to have my own business. And like, I saw the work she put into it, and it really inspired me to do the same. And then the fitness, she is a personal trainer, and she has been doing that for about the last 10 to 15 years probably. And that's her primary career now, and she absolutely loves it. And she still gets to travel a lot with that now. And she works for like the town, and she's always really busy, and it just suits her very well. She's a very big people person, and she really wants to make people feel their best. So I'm sure that inspired me too. She obviously is a big inspiration.
What's your mom's name?
Her name's Kim.
Well, good on you, Kim. And what did your dad do?
My dad has been in sales for my entire life, and he is still doing that. He's still working so hard. Honestly, both my parents work very hard, and it's even interesting. I feel like sometimes I'll go home like on the weekend and like I don't sleep in ever, and other people, like, they can sleep in so easily, and I'm like, I just feel like I'm like wasting the day. I gotta get up, I gotta do things. And I'm like, I think it's because my parents have been like that my entire life. They always get things done. They commit to what they're doing, and they just really do it. And that's probably partially why I am the way that I am now.
I wish I could be like that. I have a terrible tendency of sleeping in, and then I feel so guilty because I'm like, oh my God, the day's gone. Now, you mentioned that you traveled a lot, and you've kind of have gotten this travel bug over the years. Tell me, like, your childhood, were you kind of traveling all the time? Like, what did it kind of look like? How did it integrate it into your life?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say we were traveling all the time. I probably had like a pretty normal childhood. Like I went to school normally. We weren't like a traveling family all the time, but we did try to do at least, I would say like 1 to 2 trips a year. Normally, when I was like younger, before my brother was born, my parents took me to Europe a few times because I think there was like a deal where you got like if a child was under 2, they got a free seat.
Yeah.
So they definitely took advantage of that. And it's funny, I just got all our home videos put onto a USB so I can watch them again. And I was watching them, I'm like, wow, I've gone so many places that I don't remember at all, but it looks fun. So it was definitely nice. And we went to Europe a few times when I was younger, and then we did a lot of all-inclusives when I was younger. I remember I would always cry whenever I came home. I loved being on vacation, and I still do. I don't cry anymore, but I still love traveling. I love being on vacation. And I think as I got older, we did a lot bigger trips where like me and my mom went to Southeast Asia together for 6 weeks.
That's amazing.
And yeah, that was a big trip, and I think it really played into my relationship with food, though. Like traveling has really helped heal my relationship with food, because I feel like you have to be so much more in the moment when you're traveling, and you're not like focusing as much on the little things. And it's been amazing to be able to experience other cultures and other foods, and just like people watching and seeing how different people approach things differently. Like, for example, I love going to Europe, and I love that they have markets where they just buy their food fresh every day or every few days, and they keep it in like their little mini fridges, and they just eat whatever's in season. They eat fresh ingredients, and like there's no kids menus for the most part in Europe. They kind of like the kids will just eat what the parents are eating, just in smaller portions. And it just inspires me a lot in what I do every day. And it reignites my love of food almost, because I just feel like sometimes in North America specifically, our views for a lot of things are just skewed a little bit more towards like the being busy all the time and like needing to stock up on food at one time. And kids will have kids menus, which is fine, but I feel like when you introduce kids to more foods at younger ages, they develop more of a palate, and they'll be more inclined to try things when they're older as well. And I think that's probably why I love traveling so much. I've been lucky to go to so many different places, and I have so many more I want to go to.
I could not agree more with everything you just said there. I just came back from living in England for the past 3 years. So, yeah, absolutely amazing. I'm very sad that I'm back, but anyways. And It's so true. Like, I think even, of course, England's no longer part of Europe, but, you know, the continent, we can imagine. I think just like the overall purpose of food is also so different. You know, it's like obviously there to nourish you, but I think there's a lot more joy found in food when you're looking at that side of the world. Whenever I travel, I always say to my fiance, my 2 favorite places to go are the grocery stores and the pharmacies, because I'm like, what goodies are going to be here?
Same.
Yeah.
I'm the exact same. Like, I love going around a grocery store whenever I'm traveling and just seeing the products that they have and like picking up new things I want to try. We love doing that. And I think that's like one of my absolute favorite parts of traveling.
Would you ever be convinced to move over there?
I would. I've had this conversation so many times. One of my best friends actually lives in London, and she's like, would you ever move here? And I'm like, I would. I 100% would. I just think the hardest part for me would be being away from my family and my friends. I think they're such a huge part of my life, and I don't know if I'd be able to not be able to go home whenever I want without needing to pay for a flight. So I would love to. Like, I really would. I just wish everybody would move with me.
No, that's literally what I say. I'm like, could you just all transplant yourself to the other side of the country? Like, that would be ideal for me. That would really work in my favor. It's funny. I laugh because, like, the past 4 or so months have just been me battling the idea of, like, a lifestyle versus family versus, like, it's such a hard thing. And it's funny, like, even looking back 5 years from now, I would have been like, oh, sorry, you're going to come home for your family? Like, I would have thought it was hilarious. But now I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, I'd like to have kids one day. Like, there's just so many other things that are not black and white. But we very extremely digress there. Let me get back to my questioning. What was your dream as a child? Like, what did you want to be when you were younger?
I was one of those kids that I feel like I had no full plan on what I wanted to be. At one point, I think I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be a vet. I wanted to be absolutely everything under the sun. But I remember in high school when they asked, I think it was a careers class, we had to decide for a project what we wanted to be. And I think I said I wanted to be an HR manager, which is so random. And I have no idea why.
That's rogue. That's rogue.
I was like, I like people. So people... HR, and I have no idea why. I couldn't be further from that now.
Yeah.
But then after that, like, I think that was maybe grade 9. I think after that, I very much became focused on wanting to do something with food, and I found the dietetics program, and I was like, okay, a dietitian, like, that's exactly what I wanted to do. That was like the rest of high school. I was just very focused on that. I always wanted to go to Guelph specifically to become a dietitian, and that is what I ended up doing. So I was very grateful that that path worked out for me. But I think once I decided I liked food and health, that's kind of just 100% tunnel vision.
Do you remember, like, what it was that first kind of triggered that, like, interest in food and health and all the rest?
It was kind of, I feel like, a natural path where whenever I had friends over when I was younger, like, we'd always do baking, like, we'd make brownies or cookies or whatever. And then I think from there, I just started to actually enjoy being in the kitchen. I liked being able to experiment with different foods. And I started just becoming interested in health because I would see my mom being interested in health. And I was like, oh, that's something that, like, it's cool that food can have such an impact on how you feel. So I would start taking a recipe that was already made, like, on the internet, and I would try to change it a little bit to make it quote unquote healthier. And from there, it just kind of kept growing. Like, I just became more and more interested in understanding how food can affect the body and help us feel good. And it just really ignited that passion within me.
And was this kind of in high school before you actually went on to university?
I think so. I definitely would do, like, the baking and stuff in elementary school, but I think I started actually becoming interested in health probably like grade 9, 10, around there.
Yeah. And do you recall, because of course you said that it was kind of more how food can impact the way we feel and that sort of stuff. Do you think at that point, was it at all how it impacted the way you looked? Or was it kind of more on how you felt?
I definitely think how I looked played into it for sure. I think that is such a vulnerable time for a lot of people. And high school is just a lot in general for like our mental health and how we feel socially. And it's just such a time when so much is changing and we don't really have a lot of control over everything changing. And I think, unfortunately, that defaults to us feeling like we have to control how we look because it's like the one thing we do have control over. And you think people are going to like you more if you look a certain way or whatever. And I definitely think I fell into that trap like so many other people. Mm-hmm. And eating healthy became something that I really wanted to do. I wanted to look a certain way. I wanted to make sure that I was, yes, nourishing my body, but I don't think I was looking at it like that at that point. I think I was more so looking at it like I just wanted to eat healthy because that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to eat healthy. You're supposed to not eat like too much sugar. You're not supposed to eat too much of a certain food group. And I think that's definitely when those thoughts started coming more in my head. I think I would say my biggest regret of high school was like, I just wish I was more outgoing. Like, I wish I just talked to more people and didn't care so much what other people were thinking about me because, honest, I know it's such a cliche, but I'm like, no one actually cares at all. Like, it's like everyone's just so focused on themselves. So I definitely think if I could go back and tell myself that, I would tell myself to just be myself more.
Yeah. So yes, on your website, you kind of make a note towards your personality type, which I think would be interesting just to kind of tie in with everything. But onto your website, it says that you are an INFP, and this is not something I'm familiar with, but according to Google here, it means introverted, intuitive, feeling, and perceiving. So are idealistic, empathetic, and creative mediators driven by strong core values to improve the world. I would say that that's you. Yeah.
I feel like I'm very much a person that like I'll do any personality quiz ever. Yeah. But I think I found this one in like when I was in university, we had to do this one at one point, which is the Myers-Briggs personality test. Mm-hmm. And I read this at like the little results and I was like, this is exactly who I am. And I feel like it just I really resonated with the results. And so I was like, why not put that on my website and just, if anybody else relates, like maybe they'll connect with me. But I think it really has shaped who I am too. Like I think a lot of those personality traits, I'm like, wow, that's exactly me.
I know, it's so funny. Like, you know, some people are really into that sort of stuff and some people are like, oh, it's confirmation bias. Yeah. But if it's true, then I think it fits. Would you say that you're an introvert?
I would say I'm more of like an extroverted introvert. Mm-hmm. So like I'm not somebody that will approach a group of people that are chatting. Like I absolutely hate networking events because everybody is already talking and I'm just like by myself and I'm like, okay, I hate having to just go up, interrupt a conversation and be like, hi, I'm Nicole. So like I can't do that.
It just feels fake. It feels fake.
And I'm like, I don't want to like bother people. I don't know. I'm always just scared I'm going to bother people, which is definitely not true, but I've been like that my entire life. But then if I know people, I won't stop talking. So I can definitely be extroverted when I'm with people I know and trust. Mm-hmm. But if it's people I don't know, then I'll definitely be on the more like reserved, quiet side.
Yeah, I think we're very similar in this brief conversation that we have had. I feel like a lot of similarities are coming up. But the thing that I find I've been doing recently, and I'm not sure if you can relate to this, but because I just moved back to England, I'm kind of like trying to get my friendship circle back in order. And it's getting there. Mm-hmm. I should be proud of myself. It's getting there, but it's not exactly where I want it to be. Like I do want a little bit more, a few more people, especially because my plan is to move to Toronto and kind of start a life there. So I just want like 2 more people just to kind of like fill out the 4 friends. Yep. But anyways, but my point being is when I meet people, I feel like I like vomit up so much information. Like I feel like I'm so overwhelming to people. And then I'm like, oh my God, sometimes they don't answer me. Like sometimes that's it and I never see them again. And I'm like, whoa, I need to chill. I need to chill.
It's definitely hard. I found like connecting, like as a kid, it's so easy to make friends. You just go up to people and you're like, hi, let's be friends. And then as adults, it's like, it's very hard connecting with people. And I think I do the exact same thing. I think my way of like trying to connect with people is just telling them everything and then just being like, did something stick? I don't know.
It's like throwing something at a wall and just hoping that something will resonate. And I'm just like, oh God, like if I sat back and watched myself, I think I'd be deeply disturbed.
Yeah.
I'd be like,
I don't think I could.
No, it would be really bad. But anyways, so you went to Guelph University and you did the program that you were passionate of doing. And I think I want to focus a little bit more on kind of like your relationship with food at this time. And perhaps, in high school you said that you were having, as most high schoolers do, kind of that conscious control of food. Do you think that it got better during your program? Do you think it got worse? Do you think different things started impacting it? Kind of take me through that.
I definitely think it got worse for sure. I think in high school, I was living at home, so there just wasn't as much that was necessarily like in my control. But I feel like when I moved to university, as a very type A personality, which I've said before, I needed control over something. And I think how I looked became the thing that I wanted to control the most just because I could. So I know, like, I went into first year with the goal not to gain the freshman 15. And I know, like, that's such a sad goal looking back at it, because I'm like, I should have had the goal to, like, make friends or, like, join clubs or, like, have good marks or something. But that was my main goal. And I know I obviously regret that now, but at the time it really became what I was focused on in first year. Obviously I was still focused on school and like the other aspects, but I went to the gym every day. I lived in an apartment on campus, so it was like an apartment style residence building. And I lived with 7 other girls and we had a kitchen. So that really kind of became where I would make most of my meals. Even though Guelph has amazing food, I didn't really take advantage of the dining hall options as much just because I had a kitchen. So I would be eating like sweet potatoes with like peanut butter on top as like eggs or something. Like I really dove into like the eating healthy, like eating clean mentality. And I think especially too, like in university, you start like going out more and like drinking more and things like that. And I just feel like my way to control like those like calories I was drinking was to eat super healthy to combat it almost. So I think there was a lot of things in university that just didn't necessarily help my relationship with food and my relationship with my body. And even honestly, even the program, I feel like I'm kind of going all over the place, but even the program, nutrition, I feel like everyone has a certain way of how a dietitian or a nutrition student should look. And I think that became a huge thing in my brain that I just constantly was thinking about.
That is such an interesting point that, I didn't even like acknowledge that, because you're right. There probably is so much pressure.
Yeah.
Because my mind goes to the immediate, like, if you know the science, then you should look a certain way, which is ridiculous. Like,
yeah.
But I suppose it comes back to, I've been seeing a lot online, a specific personal trainer who gets a lot of hate because they don't look like, a 6-pack personal trainer, but they're still providing like excellent resources to people. But because they don't look that standard way, they get an incredible amount of judgment and hate and questioning of their abilities, which is actually insane. Was that kind of like a subconscious thing, or was it kind of stated almost?
No, I think it was definitely a subconscious thing. Like, I don't think anybody was specifically saying like, oh, you need to look a certain way. But I think there would definitely be like things people would say that they didn't necessarily think were a problem. But for example, like I'd go out for dinner or like go out to eat, and people would be like, oh, of course you're getting a salad, or like, oh, Nicole's obviously going to get a salad, or they'd be like, oh, I'm getting a burger, don't judge me. And I'm like, I'm not going to judge you. Like, I wanted a burger too, and now I feel guilty about that choice, and I will get a salad because I feel like that's something I should get. So I think I started internalizing those comments a lot, and it's just didn't help my mental health and like where I was at that point. So I really struggled in like first and second year, I would say, just with my food. And I started getting to the point where I was like, okay, this is like becoming a little bit too obsessive. And like I'm glad I was able to look back and like realize that at the time. And I never received a formal diagnosis either. So I think we had like a similar path where it was just disordered thoughts and disordered behaviors. But I was able to like reach out to people that could help me. And I was able to start healing my relationship with food towards the end of university. So that was good.
Was it ever your relationship with food, like, did it ever get to the point where you were like, I don't want to continue down this path and pursue this career?
Yes. For nutrition, I probably had moments where I was like, maybe this isn't what I want to do. I think it was more so also just about, I feel like dietetics in general is very like black and white, and I thought it was very difficult to live in like that gray area where there are balance and like healthy choices that may not necessarily be like what's nourishing your body the most, but it's what's nourishing like your mind the most. So there was definitely times where I had those thoughts where I was like, oh, I don't know if this is exactly what I want, but I think at the same time I was like, I still do want to continue on this path, and I want to make sure that I'm doing it differently. And I think it almost motivated me more to want to become a dietitian because I wanted to help people that might be feeling the same way I did.
Well, you had that like kind of personal experience. I find that like that is kind of like having some sort of like personal connection to your career, in my opinion, is the way for it to be the most fulfilling. You know, like even though I'm a teacher at the moment, like I find this podcast really fulfilling because I too had this like question of like what I want to be, what I want to do, and just I don't know, when you go through something yourself and then you can apply it and kind of build something on it, I feel like you become just like 1 million times more motivated to actually like follow it through.
For sure. I think you become passionate about it, and I think other people can see that passion and like they can see that you actually enjoy what you're doing, and it just kind of helps motivate you even more.
Absolutely. And if you are okay discussing it, were there certain things that you kind of implemented when you were struggling with your relationship with food that kind of helped?
Like helped heal my relationship with food? Yeah. So I would make sure, I think my biggest thing that I had during university, like one of the main things that I found myself doing was I would just like randomly like grab, like I would avoid eating anything that I deemed unhealthy, but I would still have them available in the house. So then I would I would get cravings for them like late at night or something, and I'd grab like a big handful of them because I wanted them. Yeah. And so when I was healing my relationship with food, I did start. First of all, I talked to my mom because my mom has always been such a big support system for me, and having those conversations like out in the open and actually being able to talk to somebody about how I'm feeling, and when in the moment when I was feeling a certain way, I could just reach out to her. It helped a lot. I think that's probably the biggest thing that has helped my relationship with food. And also my boyfriend, who I started dating in second year of university, he also was a huge support system for me as well. I think That's probably my biggest thing that has helped my relationship with food. I think being able to share food with another person and just see how he would approach eating and how he would approach food. And he really reignited that love of food that I definitely lost. I feel like instead of fearing food, I started looking at it more as just enjoyment. I think I started allowing myself to have some of those foods that I was not allowing myself to have, but I would try putting them in a bowl instead of just like leaving the package open and grabbing handfuls of it, because I would recognize that, like, okay, I have this craving. There's nothing wrong with having that craving. And I would put it in a bowl. I'd have like a portion or however much I wanted, and then the craving would be satisfied and I'd be able to move on. I'm not saying it was easy. Sometimes it would definitely be hard and I would definitely still feel that guilt or that like fear of eating those foods. But I think over time and like having that support system, it was something that I was able to overcome, and like that fear slowly started to go away and the guilt slowly started to go away. And I just started recognizing that if I'm eating a balanced diet, nothing is going to happen. Like, I'm still going to be me. I'm just going to actually be able to enjoy my life a little bit more and like not be scared of, like, I remember one time in university, I skipped one of my best friends. Like, I was supposed to go visit her for homecoming and I didn't want to go because it was the weekend after our homecoming. And I was like, oh, I already like drank so much that weekend and like I ate like unhealthy and like I wasn't in my routine. I didn't get to go to the gym. So I like texted her like last minute. I was like, hey, I actually can't come. And I like still regret that now because I'm like, I missed out on things that I shouldn't have missed out on just because I was so focused on like how I looked. And now I'm able to live so much of a more fulfilled life and I'm able to actually enjoy the foods that I'm eating. And yeah.
That's really an inspiration, I think, for I hope my listeners, but for myself specifically. Like, I think just hearing you say, which is something that my partner says repeatedly, is like, one meal is not going to change who you are. Like, one decision is not going to impact you. And it's like, if you are practicing, healthy diet, 80% of the time, then there's no reason why you can't indulge sometimes. And I think, I don't know, like, when I hopefully start a family, like, I'm hopefully going to speak about food very differently because I do, growing up, recall things being labeled as bad and as good and as, you should limit how much you have of this and you should have more of this, and just so much of a narrative around it that I would really like to strive towards, like, more of a neutral understanding of food.
Yeah.
Do you have any, and I'm not sure if you want to start a family, but if you do, is that something that you're really conscious of?
Yeah, I completely relate to everything you just said. I think, like I said, like, I had a great childhood, but there was definitely things, and I think it was just the norm at the time too, but there was definitely things, like, where you're like had to sit at the table until you were done every single thing on your plate, or you weren't allowed to have dessert until you finished your dinner. And I think it just subconsciously gets stuck in your head where you're almost like not allowed to have certain foods until you eat like the healthy foods. Yeah. And it just really started like the labeling process in my head being like, I can't have cookies. And I think the more I like thought that I'm not allowed to have cookies, it made me want cookies more. Whereas I see now, like, children that are growing up and they've have, like, I've seen on social media, parents will serve their kids, like, everything at one time. Like, they'll put the cookies on the plate with all the other food. And, like, they can have a bite of the cookie and then, like, they have a bite of broccoli or whatever. Like, it's a little weird, but the kids don't grow up, like, thinking certain foods are better than others. They just think it's food and they like the taste of it. And it's actually so interesting to see because it's, a lot of the time, it's not like the kids are just eating the cookies. Like, they're eating the other things on the plate. They're just, sometimes they might not even eat the cookies, or they might eat like half the cookie. And I definitely want, like, that's going to be a huge thing that I really want to be part of my family life. I really want to get like the food neutrality thing as much as I can. I think obviously it's hard as parents in general to raise kids, but I really want to try to make sure that's a priority.
Yeah, I agree. And it's interesting. I was one of the articles that you were featured in kind of talked about the whole like lunchbox idea, and the idea that utilizing more of like a bento box style specifically for children so they can just like see everything, because it's not like we're treating that cookie or that piece of chocolate as the reward. It's simply just, this is one of the options that you could be having. And I think when it's treated as a reward, I think it's almost, again, it's missing the point of how we should be viewing treats. It's also kind of completely ignoring your hunger cues. Like, there's been so many times when I remember, like, being a kid and it's like, oh, you finished your dinner, but, like, look, there's this thing, there's this treat, there's this reward. And it completely goes against your hunger cues. And, like, now it's no longer this, like, you know, overeating or, like, eating to the point where you're no longer hungry. It's kind of just like, I know that it's there, and if I ever want it, I can have it. And that's the end of the story kind of thing.
I think going back to like that picture of me as a kid, it's just like kids know themselves honestly way better than adults do. Like I think they are very in touch with their hunger cues. They're in touch with what they like. They're in touch with what they don't like. And then we slowly start to lose that as we get older. And just because of like external societal pressures and like just things you're hearing and subconscious thoughts. And I think what we all really need to do is get back to being like a child and like thinking, like actually checking in with your body. And like, if you look at a kid, they're going to stop eating when they're full. Yeah. And I think, I'm obviously not a parent, so I don't want to give like parental advice. Yeah. But I think being able to just say like, okay, you don't need to finish this, but it's going to be available in the fridge for if you are hungry again. Yeah. Instead of like making another like meal 2 hours later, just offering them the same food, just like putting it aside. I think it helps really hit home that point that like, okay, food's always going to be available. Like we have a fridge, food's available. It just, like, it's okay to eat it when you're hungry.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And just really quickly, on the comment of like food will always be available, I think we're both coming from a place of like extreme privilege in terms of that. You know, I work in Toronto and I see a lot of variety in like what children have.
For sure.
And it's, you know, very sad when I see that some people really go without, and kind of the almost like the desperate nature of like trying to get all the calories in while they're at school because it's uncertain when they go home. Yeah. And I just want to acknowledge that, you know, that we're coming at it from that kind of lens, and that it's not,
for sure,
it's not everyone is going to be able to have like that much freedom in terms of that. But with that being said, actually, I'm going to transition us a little bit, because there was another article that was posted about you where you spoke about utilizing Dollarama. So perhaps you could kind of, you know, this might be a nice thing. You know, we don't always have to buy the super expensive stuff in order to achieve these healthy meals. So perhaps you could enlighten us on that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I think, I completely agree. And I think that groceries have definitely gotten very expensive.
It's actually terrifying.
So expensive. But that's why I really wanted to take part in that Dollarama article, because I think that it's a misconception that eating healthy needs to cost more. I definitely am somebody that says you do not need to eat organic. I think organic is just an expensive label, and it's expensive for the farmers. It's just expensive in general, and it's not really any different than conventional produce. So I think eating healthy doesn't need to be expensive, and you can definitely find healthy options at Dollarama. Like, it was such that author actually like reached out to me and was like, do you want to take part in this? And I'm like, yeah, for sure. Like, that sounds like such an interesting article. So for anyone that didn't read it, it basically was just an article where we created different meals using products that you can find specifically at Dollarama in Canada. So I don't even remember what meals we ended up coming up with, but there's some amazing staples. It really opened my eyes to what is at Dollarama, and you can get a lot. Like, you can get canned beans and canned chickpeas and canned tuna, and even canned chicken, which are all amazing sources of protein. You can also find like basic pantry staples like brown rice. You can find like whole wheat pasta. You can find a lot of things. You can even find like canned vegetables or canned fruits or dried fruits or vegetables, nuts and seeds. Like, there's a lot of things that I definitely was not aware of, and I've started buying at Dollarama now just to help save money as well. I think we can be creative with what we're doing. And like I said, like, my whole mentality and message is that I want to help people get back to the basics. And I don't think you need 10 million ingredients that you don't understand the name of and you are only going to use for this one recipe. I have a lot of like 5-ingredient recipes on my website. I did like a 5-ingredient dinner series last year, and they're all like balanced, healthy meals, but they only use 5 ingredients because I really want to make sure that my recipes are accessible and budget friendly and everybody can make them. It's not like a certain income class that you have to be able to afford to be able to make these recipes.
And for people who are like, oh, buying from Dollarama is going to create quote unquote gross meals, this article kind of highlighted like a coconut curry with chickpeas and like some really beautiful recipes that no one would ever know that the produce and the resources are from a slightly cheaper place. And the thing that gets me is like, you go to Whole Foods, you see a brand, you go to Dollarama, you see the exact same brand, and I'm like, it actually causes me so much like anger.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's actually crazy when you compare prices between brands. And like, I think that's why it really, like, if you take advantage too of options like apps like Flip and stuff where you can compare prices and like make sure that you are getting the best deal for the products that you're buying, it really can help you save money too. And like taking advantage of frozen options like frozen fruits and veggies, especially if they're not in season, because sometimes like that can be where things are costing a lot more money because the products have to travel further. Frozen veggies and fruits are just as good, if not better and fresher sometimes than the like fresh produce, and you can easily add it to meals. You can make sure that you're not wasting it by having to throw it out if you don't use it all. Like, I am all for convenience options like that and like canned options. Yeah, I definitely don't think it needs to be expensive to eat healthy.
So before we carry on with Nicole's career, I just wanted to kind of include a little section of Mythbusters. I just came up with this idea now, but I think it's genius. So the first one is, you've kindly said for us, is, frozen fruit and veg, still nutritionally dense for us. The next thing I want to talk about is milk. There are the milk industry and the nut milk and the oat milk and the rice milk and what should we be drinking? And is there what is the best and healthiest version of milk?
Yeah, I personally am a dairy drinker. I don't think there's anything wrong with drinking dairy milk at all. I think a lot of times dairy milk is the most natural option. It does have protein already in it without needing to be added to it. It already has like vitamin D and calcium. It has those nutrients that you need, and that's typically why you are drinking milk. But I know there are people out there that have like dairy allergies or they're lactose intolerant or they need other options. And I am completely like, you definitely can have nut milk or options and things like that. But I think what you want to look for specifically, I always say the best non-dairy option is soy milk, just because it does have a similar protein content to dairy milk. And those are the things that, like, when I'm drinking milk or adding milk to recipes, like, those are the things I'm looking for. I want to make sure that it has calcium, vitamin D, and protein. And those are the 3 nutrients I'm always looking for. So I think a lot of times with nut milk specifically is people are like, oh, it has this, I can't have this, I can't have this. And unless you're having huge amounts of milk, which I don't think anybody is, like, you don't need to be scared of any certain ingredients. A lot of times the ones that are only like 1 ingredient and it's just almonds or whatever, like, those aren't fortified with those other nutrients that we need. So they're going to be lacking that protein. They're going to be lacking the calcium and the vitamin D. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is something you do want to be aware of, because those, like, calcium and vitamin D specifically, are things that we are lacking in our diet, and making sure that you have other sources of that, whether it be a supplement or other foods that you're eating, is something that you should consider if you're having those options that aren't fortified.
Amazing. I just learned so much. When you're buying things like ground beef and ground, I don't even actually think it is relevant for ground chicken, but they always have like percentages. What is the best percentage? Like, what should we be looking for?
I typically, when I'm buying like ground beef, I usually look for like lean or extra lean. I think I normally gravitate more towards lean, just because I feel like it's the best mix of having that fat still, so it still has that flavor, it still clumps together, it still like acts like as it should, but it doesn't have an overly large amount of fat where it's like the entire pan is just going to be grease. You want to make sure that you are still getting that protein. So I'm honestly not sure the exact percentage, but I would always recommend looking for like lean options if you can find them.
If someone's trying to build kind of like a balanced plate or a balanced meal, what is like a good rule of thumb when like choosing what to put and how to eat kind of thing?
Yeah, for sure. So I think everybody has probably seen some variation of like the healthy plate model. So basically it's a plate where it's divided into 3 different sections. There's like a quarter, and then a half at the bottom or at the side. And I always say that's the best way of eating. It means a quarter of your plate is filled with fiber-filled carbohydrates. So these are going to be typically like whole grains or even like legumes or beans, just because those are where a lot of the fiber is going to come from. The other quarter is going to be filled with lean protein sources. So like chicken, like I was saying, lean ground beef, turkey, fish, tofu, like the list goes on, just basically any source of protein. And then the other half of the plate is going to be filled with fruits or vegetables. And obviously I know not every single meal is going to look like a perfectly portioned plate. I think more times than not, our plates don't look like that. But just having a general idea of looking at like when you are making food and being like, okay, this is about like a quarter of the meal is the protein, a quarter of the meal is the grains, and then the other half is vegetables, is a really good way of thinking of any meal you're approaching.
My last question is about protein. So I think social media kind of really blew up. It's kind of now moved on to fiber, but for a really long time there, protein was like how much protein, you need 110. How much do you actually need? And does it vary between like age, gender, or sex, I should say? Like, does that have an impact?
Yes, for sure. I think protein, like that like trend where everyone's trying to get like 110 grams, I think it was just kind of crazy because every single person is different, and protein is very impacted based on your body type and like how much you're moving and like how active you are and just like your metabolism in general as well. So there's no specific recommendation that I would say you need to make sure you're having this much. I think as an adult in general, I typically try to aim for about 25 grams or more per meals. I think that is usually where like the sweet spot is, where you're making sure that you are feeling full after eating. I think the main thing with protein is that it helps keep you feeling satiated. So it's not gonna, like if you have a meal that doesn't have any protein at all, you're pretty much guaranteed to be hungry within like an hour. Whereas if you have a protein-rich meal, you're just going to be full for a little bit longer because it is harder for the body to actually digest. So I always recommend aiming for at least 25 grams of protein per meal and about like 5 to 10 grams per snacks. I think that typically works for the best for the most people, but then you also have to keep in mind that if you are an athlete, you're going to need more protein, or if you like work out very often, you might need more protein, or like if you're an older adult, you might need a little bit less protein, and kids will probably need a little bit less as well. And then it just slowly, like, it's almost like it increases when you're getting older because you're growing, and then it like stops once you stop growing, and then it goes down a little bit more for your needs.
Well, there you go. Nicole busted it for us there. And then actually I lied. I have one more question. Metabolism. And I'm not sure if you can speak to this, but I saw this thing that it was like, you can change your metabolism by upping your caloric intake and then like slowly tapering it down. Have you heard this? What is fact and what is not reality?
I don't know if I've seen this exact thing, but like for the most part, it does make sense. Like your metabolism is how quickly you are able to digest food. So what actually happens when we are skipping meals often or not getting enough calories is our metabolism slows down because your body's holding on to all of the nutrients that you are actually giving it. So that's why a lot of times, like if you are under eating, you might not notice that you are as hungry just because your metabolism is like slowing down. And then when you do have a big meal, you're going to feel like very full for a long time. Whereas you should be feeling hungry every few hours. Like it's normal to feel hungry because your body is working through that food. It's digesting that food. So the more calories that we are giving it, like if you are increasing your calories, I would think it would increase your metabolism. I can't say that for certain, so don't quote me on that, but I would say that it makes sense in terms of science and biology that the more you're eating, the more that your metabolism will be increased just because your body understands that it is getting more food. So it's going to keep digesting the food and not just like hold on to it.
And does that directly relate to being leaner? Or does metabolism and like body composition, are those kind of separate things?
They are separate because it can be very impacted by your genetics, just like body composition in general, and so can metabolism. So it really depends. Like just because you have a really fast metabolism doesn't necessarily mean you are going to have a leaner body composition. It might mean that you might be a thinner person, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be like have a more muscular build. It really depends on like your genetics. It depends on what you're eating in general and like how you are fueling your body. Like just because you have a fast metabolism doesn't mean you can you need to completely like forget about nutrition. I think it's still important to make sure that you're eating balanced meals and like nourishing your body and giving it things that make you feel good as well.
Amazing. Well, thank you for answering all those little quick fire questions. And perhaps we can kind of get into, the beginning of your business. So perhaps, from what I understand, you kind of just started like posting on Instagram. What was the idea when you kind of created the account?
It's funny. It's changed a lot over the last 5 years, but I really started it during university just because I was already making food. I was making these recipes in my kitchen, whether it be just like an easy dinner I made or like a quick dessert or something. I was taking pictures of them anyways. They were on my phone, just like sitting in my camera roll. And my friend was like, you should start an Instagram page. And I actually had a professor at university who told me that one of the best ways to get into like media dietetics was to establish like a presence online. And this was at the time when like before TikTok really existed, before Reels really existed, and I didn't really know any dietitians that were actually on social media. So, and I was just a nutrition student at the time, but I still thought there'd be value in just like sharing the recipes that I was already making. So I literally would just post pictures of the food. I think at first I didn't even put the recipe. I just put a picture of the food and like said what it was.
Yeah.
And it like slowly started growing from there. I used to talk a lot more about my relationship with food at the beginning as well, just because it was a lot more prominent in my life. And then it slowly started growing, like with Reels and TikTok. That's really what kind of made my Instagram blow up. I would start like actually posting the recipes on the social media platform. I would post like videos of the recipes, and I just became known as like a healthy eating dietitian because I was a dietitian at that point. And from there, it kind of morphed a little bit more in the last year and a half to being more like a meal prep specific focus. I think that's kind of become my niche a little bit more. I focus on, I realized, like we talked about before, I realized that our society is just busy. No one has time. I think that's one of the biggest barriers now, in addition to cost, but I think one of the biggest barriers to healthy eating is that we have a lack of time. It's not a lack of motivation. It's a lack of actually like having the time to sit down and like eat and make a healthy meal. So I've really started focusing on making sure that most of my recipes are meal prep friendly, whether they be something that you can make ahead of time and store in the fridge or the freezer, or they're like a quick under 30-minute recipe that you can make in the moment. And yeah, my page it's crazy. It just blew up really quickly with Reels and TikTok. And I was very lucky. I got in at like a very good time. And people always say like, how did you do it? And I'm like, I honestly just got lucky. I don't know.
That's too funny. And media dietetics, is that the word? What is that exactly?
So it's kind of a different area of nutrition. So in university, there's kind of two paths that are really, there's two paths that are pushed towards you a little bit more. They say you can either be a dietitian in like hospitals, like clinical settings, hospitals, nursing homes, or you can be a dietitian in private practice. So you can open your own private practice where you're dealing with patients one-on-one. They don't really talk about like the other areas of nutrition that dietitians work. And I think I was just doing research and I saw there was like a few dietitians that I stumbled upon that focused specifically on doing like TV interviews at the time. It wasn't social media so much as the focus, but it was the people that are on like breakfast television every morning, or like those dietitians that you see that are like sharing recipes on your nightly news channel or something like that. And I was like, that is what I want to do. I want to make sure that I'm able to reach as many people as possible. And I didn't necessarily want to, I still make sure that I am like reading up on like the science-based evidence, but I just didn't really want to necessarily work in an area where I was dealing one-on-one with patients. I wanted to be able to have the freedom to make recipes and share them and be able to like interact with like a lot of different people who are able to benefit without needing to pay, because nutrition, like dietitians and like doctors and everything, like it can be expensive if you don't have a good health insurance plan. So making sure that it was accessible information and I was sharing that evidence-based information in an easy to understand platform became like my main goal.
Well, yeah, I appreciate you kind of like giving that clarity. And did you, once you graduated that 4-year program, did you go on to kind of do more school after that to kind of help?
Yeah, for sure. So in Canada, you actually have to do a 4-year undergrad program. And then in Ontario, you either have to do a internship after or a master's program. to become eligible to become a dietitian. So I decided to go the master's route, and I actually went to TMU to do my master's in nutrition communication. So it was very up my alley. It was exactly what I wanted. It was a really cool program that focused not only on like the actual nutrition advice, but it focused on like talking about public policy and talking about health education and talking about how to do like TV media interviews and podcast interviews and write blog posts. Yeah, like it was exactly perfect. What I wanted. so it worked out well.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? Like I feel like a lot of programs are really stuck in like a time that maybe isn't relevant, but that is so like here and now.
It's definitely an up and coming area of dietetics or nutrition. I think like even in the last however many years, 5 years since I did it, the program has like doubled in size. It's crazy. It's like every year it's just getting bigger and bigger. And it's amazing. Like there's so many new dietitians coming into the job market that have these communication and like interview skills. And it's really good because I think a lot of people can benefit from that now.
Absolutely. And kind of switching back to, you know, the developing of your business and stuff, did you intend to work for yourself? Like, would that have been the goal?
It's funny because like looking back, I honestly can't see me working in any other area. And even like looking back at the jobs I had in high school and things, like I have always been a very independent person. Like I know that like what I need to do, I know how to do it, and I just need to get it done. Like I don't really like having somebody watching over my shoulder telling me what to do. So it worked out like perfectly for me, but this is never what I thought I would actually be doing. Like I didn't even know this could be a job at the time I was doing university. I honestly had no idea what I wanted to do when I graduated. I just knew it wasn't working in a hospital and working with clients one-on-one. So I was I was very lost when I graduated, and it worked out really well. Like the timing where I was finishing my master's program and I had like a 5-month break before I had to write my CDRE, which is the dietetics exam in Canada. And I was like slowly gaining traction on social media, and I was like, okay, maybe I could actually like try to do this as a job. And I was like, I'll just do it for 5 months, give myself like a certain amount of time, because I'm not somebody that would ever leave a job to take a risk. I'm just not that type of person. So it worked out really well where I gave myself those 5 months. I was also able to study at the same time. I was able to have that flexibility, and I'm still doing it, which is crazy.
5 years later.
I know.
In those 5 months, did you make money? Like, were you getting to the point where you could support yourself?
I did. I was able to make money through social media primarily at that point. Like I didn't even have a website at that stage. I didn't have like a Substack or a newsletter or anything. It was just social media. And I was lucky enough that I was able to make enough money. And I was also living at home during that point too, which is another reason that I was able to like take that risk and be able to try working for myself. But it was also like, it has been a lot of learning over the past 5 years. I think I didn't realize, and I don't think a lot of people realize when they want to do social media full time, that it's not just like filming once and then just like sitting around the rest of the day and being able to do whatever you want. Like there's a lot that goes into like having a business. I'm like, I have to do taxes. I have like an employee. Like it's a lot to like learn, but it's been a really fun learning curve as well.
I appreciate you saying that, because I think, you know, one of the kind of pillars of this podcast is really like shining a lens on like the reality of things. And I very much, you know, 2 years ago kind of like idolized all these people. And it's not that I idolize you any less, but it's like, it's not just like beautiful shining roses and beautiful things. It's like, it's still a job. It's still a career. It's still something that requires a huge amount of effort and a lot of like personal motivation. Like I'm starting a series on the podcast to actually try and get a little bit more traction, where I speak about, you know, how to start a podcast. And, you know, I was kind of reflecting on my own experience, and it's like, you can, get all the equipment, do all the things, have all of the ideas, but if you don't have that like intense personal motivation, like there's a huge reality that people aren't going to listen for a very, very long time. And it's like you need to have that like the strongest internal drive and support around you. Otherwise it's just not going to work.
It's hard, honestly. Like, it's really hard, especially like when you're first starting, like to keep that motivation and understand like your why and why you're doing it. And it's a lot to push through, especially now. Like, I feel like there's so many people doing similar things. And like, I feel like it's like there's points where I'm like, there's no original ideas anymore. Like, I'm like, I can't think of any other recipes. It like, I don't know. I feel like you have to remind yourself that you bring something different to the table. And even though you might be doing something so similar to someone else, you're doing it in a different way. And you have to make sure that you're staying true to yourself. I think with social media in general, like everybody's doing such similar things, and it's really easy to copy what other people are doing because you see it
and not even
well.
intentionally as well.
Exactly. Like I think so often, even like I'll be scrolling and I'll see people with like a voiceover that I'm like, oh, I really like that voiceover, or I like how they did that video, and like it almost gets like stuck in my head without me even realizing, and then I'll like find myself saying the voiceover, and then I'm like, wait, I can't say that, somebody else said that. Like, I need to do it my way, and I need to stay true to myself. And you have to constantly remind yourself to stay true to who you are, and remind yourself that when you do that, people will see your passion, and they'll see that you actually enjoy what you're doing, and then they'll fall in love with you for that.
Exactly. And today, of course, you have your Substack, you have your website, have your, really this huge community on all your social pages. Is that kind of like the main sources of your income right now? Like, are you doing, like, what kind of things would you say are like your daily activities that you have to do?
Yeah, so I'm lucky enough now that I actually do have an assistant that helps me. Yay. She's like a social media, I know, she's my social media manager, basically.
Amazing.
She's amazing. I'm so lucky, just because I was getting stuck doing a lot of the like editing and like tedious tasks that I didn't necessarily find were the best use of my time. I'm like, I would rather be developing recipes. I'd rather be researching for these blog posts. I'd rather be, I don't know, thinking of new ideas that I can do in the future. And so she's amazing. She helps me film all the time. And I would say like a typical day in my life usually would be like in the morning, I'm just getting organized, figuring out, like answering emails, doing like brand deals, like things like that. So a lot more of like the business side of things. And then in the afternoon, I try to film like usually about 3 times a week, where I'm filming different recipes or like nutrition videos or meal prep videos or whatever I'm filming. And then usually that will take up the bulk of my afternoon. So that will usually, like, I'll be filming about 5 hours, usually like 3 times a week, which is a lot. And people don't realize. Like, I feel like so often people are like, oh, like you just like, you can make your own schedule. You can go on vacation whenever you want. I'm like, well, no, because when I go on vacation, I need to like work overtime before I go on vacation to have everything ready. Yeah,
it's like, it's not as simple as you may appreciate. So 5 hours of recording, or not even 5 hours, 5 hours of recording on your recording day. So that's 15 hours of like content collection per week. I think I need to up my content game, because like truly I think it's hard to like kind of like organize it in my head sometimes of like when I should be doing what. So that's something that I need to work on. But on your YouTube channel, is that something that you're like hoping to continue working with, or what kind of is happening over on that platform?
YouTube's actually been on my goal list for probably 2 to 3 years now, and I keep being like, it's something I want to do, but it just seems like a lot of work. I do want to do it, and I honestly, like, I keep saying like, okay, this is the year, and I honestly do think this might be the year, because I think there's a lot more I want to say that I can't necessarily say in like a 30-second reel. And think especially now that I'm getting more into like this meal prep niche, I think people would really benefit from being able to see me do the entire process, like go to the grocery store, prep the meals, be able to give tips while I'm prepping them, and then answer any questions people have as well. So it is something I want to do, but I think at the same time there is that like scared thoughts in the back of my head that we were talking about earlier, where I'm like, is it going to be worth the amount of work I'm putting in that people are actually going to be watching it?
I know, that's always like the battle. It's kind of like, you know, do I just put more effort in this thing, or do I stretch myself even thinner than I am? But I did notice that you have kind of like monthly meal prep things. So perhaps you can talk a little bit about that. Is that something that you're continuing in 2026?
Yeah, so that's something we started last year. And basically I came up with this idea. I really wanted to, like, I have an amazing community of people on social media, but I just felt a little disconnected from them. I wanted to be able to develop like an actual community where people are able to support each other and talk to each other and talk to me, and it didn't seem as like intimidating, I guess. And I came up with this idea to do a meal prep club. So every month we have a new recipe that we focus on, and it becomes our recipe of the month. So in March, we are doing my feta pesto pasta salad. And I try to pick a new recipe that's like a little bit different every month. So it's like, we're not doing like a salad every single month. I think next month we're actually doing like a snack recipe. I think last month we did a breakfast. It just depends on the month, but I try to pick a new one. And if you make that recipe at any point during that month, we get to partner with some amazing brands that have graciously sponsored giveaways. So we've worked with some great brands in the past, and we definitely want to continue doing that. It's a great way to, first of all, make people like interested in meal prepping and just like dip their toes in the water, just because it's only one recipe. Like if you make that recipe at any point during the entire month, you can be entered in this giveaway, and you can come to, I do a live video of me making the recipe every month, usually at the beginning of the month. And you can come to it, watch it live, or you can watch it recorded, and I'll answer questions that like the audience has, or any like share any tips or tricks that I have, either about that recipe, or sometimes I just go on tangents and start talking about random things. But it's just a nice way to actually be able to, I don't know, make it a little bit less formal. I feel like I started to hate the idea of doing like reels and TikToks all the time, because I'm like, it just seems so fake almost. Like it's like I'm actually making the recipes, but it just, I wanted it to be approachable, and I think that was my goal with that. So it is something I definitely want to continue doing, and I want to make sure that, I don't know, we find ways to make it more exciting and building it up a little bit more as well.
I think it's honestly a great idea, and I will be putting it in my calendar for for April, because I think it's like, it's also like when people think about meal prepping, I think it's, you know, the time that it takes, but then also like you're kind of just doing it yourself. And the fact that like there's more of a community element to it is so important. And I think it's funny, like I've spoken to a few entrepreneurs. Am I saying that right? Entrepreneurs. I'm like,
the more you say a word, the more you're like, that's wrong.
That is incorrect. The word community has like been so like the forefront of what people are saying. And I too am like, I'm like trying to find that sense of community, because, you know, with what I do, it's kind of like I speak to my lovely guests, but then I never speak to them again. And it's like, oh, I need to like find a way to kind of like keep the relationship there. And like, I have no doubt if I were to see any of my guests today, I would have a wonderful experience with them, and like there wouldn't be an issue. But it's kind of like, I want it to feel less transactional in a sense, and more like, you know, you have become part of this community that I'm creating. Like that would be like my dream goal. The other thing I want to comment on was how you said, I've had the goal of doing YouTube for 3 years. Listeners, you can have a goal for more than 1 year. That is such an important thing to say. It's like, okay, I didn't do it this year. We're going to try again next year. I think there's so much pressure on people to like set their goals, and like, if you don't do it this year, you can never do it, and it can never be in your goal list again.
I think even on that fact, it's like you don't need to start it in January. You don't need to be like, January is when I'm setting my goals. Like, you can set goals in April. You can set goals whenever you want. And like, I was making a vision board with my friend actually at the beginning of the year, just because it's like a fun thing to do. And she's like, oh my God, I've put the exact same picture on my vision board every single year for the past 2 years. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's just like, you could do it next year. Like, try this year. Like, it doesn't matter. I think we sometimes are so hard on ourselves where it's like we need to be like a new person. We have to come up with all these new goals and like achieve every single one of them. And if we don't, we're a failure. And it's definitely not true. Like, baby steps is like, if you just like take, and I need to remind myself this, but it's like if you take one small step towards your goal, like that is an accomplishment. And yeah, I need to do the YouTube thing. I need to do something for it this year.
Well, you're starting small. You know, you've got your meal club, and then just from there, and even I feel like you don't even need to really change anything. Like, literally, just set up your camera as you're doing your weekly meal prep. Like, you don't even, because if you're saying you want less of a kind of structured idea, like people want to see who you are, and I think this has been really special because we've gotten to see like a little bit of like your personality, which perhaps isn't as, you know, prominent on your social media. So yeah, just set up a camera and do whatever.
Good advice. You know? I know. I'm gonna do it. You're gonna hold me accountable.
I'm gonna hold you accountable to be perfect. Fabulous. Well, I think are coming to kind of the end of our conversation. Before we wrap up, I do want to just, first of all, thank you. I've had a wonderful time. My anxiety is gone. I don't feel anxious anymore. I did nearly pick off my fingernail, so we're gonna have to deal with that after the fact. But anyways, but I suppose is there anything else that like you're desperate to share with the listeners right now that you're kind of hoping for the future? Anything that's kind of swirling around in your mind?
I think my goals this year, like I really want to continue building more of a community. I think it's easy to like look at the amount of followers I have across social media platforms and be like, wow, Nicole's so successful. And like I don't take that for granted at all. I'm so grateful for every single person that follows me. But I do want to make sure that I am continuing to develop like that sense of community and actually seeing that people are making my recipes. I think that's like the thing that makes me the happiest. I love being able to like get comments from people being like, you have absolutely changed my family's meal times, or like my kids that don't eat any vegetables loved this recipe. Like, it makes me so happy to see. So I want to develop more ways to do that, whether it be like in-person events or something. I really want to continue building on that. And my goal for the future that I am manifesting right now, I'm saying it on this podcast, is I will have a cookbook in the next few years. So hopefully look forward to that. It's not in the works, but it will be.
You said few years. It's okay. You've got time. Oh, that's brilliant. That's such a nice. And you know what? It's like those long distant goals. You don't need to have like these immediate things that are going to happen. You will have a cookbook in the next few years, and I will be purchasing it, and you will be signing it for me. And these are all the things that are going to happen for us. Can you please tell my listeners before we say goodbye where we can find you and all your resources?
Yes, of course. So you can find me on basically every social media platform. So like Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, YouTube, under the name @Nourished by Nick. Or you can find all my recipes for free on my website, which is nourishedbynick.com. And I have like hundreds of recipes there. There's, like I said, 30-minute dinners. There's meal prep friendly breakfasts. There's full meal prep plans where I do like a week meal prep and I share all the recipes there. And then if you want to join my Substack newsletter list, you can also find the link to that on my website as well. And there we even go more in depth about nutrition information. We do like a monthly Mythbusters. We have like a free and a paid subscription. So the paid one actually is something that we started doing the beginning of this year where we changed it a little bit, and now we do a monthly meal prep plan. So we send out an entire monthly meal prep plan, including grocery lists and all the recipes ad-free. So it's a lot, like it's very beneficial for people that might not have the time to actually like plan meals or plan the grocery list. And we've had really good reviews of it so far. So it's something that we're definitely going to build out even more. And I would definitely recommend taking a peek at it if you have any interest in meal prepping at all.
No, I think that's like such an incredible resource because whenever I'm trying to meal prep, it's like I have 1 million tabs open trying to like sort everything out. And just so people are aware, like the meal prepping that Nicole provides is not like chicken and rice. Like we are getting... the taste buds are appreciating what's happening.
For sure. I always say I want to make sure that I'm not sacrificing on taste. I always want to provide the nutrition without sacrificing on taste. So all my recipes, I try to make sure they actually taste good and are not boring.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today, for coming on, for talking to me. And yes, for my listeners, everything that we mentioned today will, of course, be linked down in the description. And yeah, I will see all of you next week. And please do check out Nourished by Nicole. Nope, it's Nourished by Nick. Nourished by Nick. And also follow along me because that would be great too.
Of course. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I absolutely loved being part of the podcast today.
Amazing. Well, now you're part of the community. So there we go.